They whispered it across Abuja. No maid lasts 2 weeks in the Williams Mansion. The grand estate in Asokoro stood like a fortress, tall black gates, towering white pillars, and glass windows that mirrored the sky. From the outside, it looked like a palace fit for presidents. But those who worked there knew the truth. Inside those marble walls lived fear. 9 maids had entered within 6 months. 9 had fled, some in tears, some in anger, others without ever returning after their first day. The mistress of the house, Mrs. Ifeoma Williams, was known across the city as a woman impossible to please. Her silence was sharp, her words sharper, and her temper left scars that were not easily seen. But on a quiet morning, another woman approached those gates. Her name was Adanna Okafor. She was not like the others. She did not come with dreams of luxury or hopes of fitting into high society. She came with a purpose fiercer than fear, a sick daughter named Chiamaka, lying in a hospital bed in Lagos, her small chest struggling to rise and fall. Adanna's steps were steady, her old sneakers worn thin from the long road. She carried a single nylon bag, inside it her daughter's medical report, and a few pieces of clothing. Sweat glistened on her dark skin, but her eyes carried a stillness that made her seem unbreakable. At the back door, she met Mama Ronka, the stout cook with graying braids, who looked her over without smiling. "You're the new one?" she asked flatly. "Yes, Ma," Adanna replied softly. Mama Ronka shook her head. "Don't unpack too much. We buried too many names here." No one welcomed her. No one asked again who she was. To them, she was another shadow passing through a house that swallowed people whole. A steward shoved a mop into her hands and muttered, "Start with the marble floors. Madam is coming." Adanna tied her scarf tighter and whispered to herself, 3 months, just survive 3 months, for Chiamaka. Then it came, the sound of power. Click, clack, click, clack. Heels striking marble. The scent of expensive perfume filled the air. The maids froze. And then she appeared. Mrs. Ifeoma Williams. Tall, beautiful, wrapped in a crimson silk robe, her cheekbones sharp as stone. She scanned the room like a queen who owned not just the house, but the air itself. Without a word, she tipped Adanna's bucket over with her foot. Water splashed across the spotless floor. "Clean it. Now." Her voice was calm, but carried the weight of thunder. Adanna bent down, soaked feet and all, and began to wipe the tiles. Around her, the staff shook their heads. "She won't last," they whispered. "She looks too gentle." But they were wrong. Adanna wasn't weak. She was a mother, and a mother on a mission cannot be broken by fear. The morning sun spilled through the wide glass panes of the Williams Mansion. But inside the air was heavy. Adanna's mop slid across the marble floors with quiet determination. Each movement carried the weight of her whispered prayer. For Chiamaka, survive. Then came the sharp rhythm again. Click, clack, click, clack. Mrs. Ifeoma Williams descended the staircase like royalty. Her robe shimmered, her teacup balanced delicately in her hand, her gaze sharp enough to slice through steel. She stopped, eyes resting on Adanna, no greeting, no warmth. Only a long, assessing silence. With one smooth motion, she swept her foot across the bucket again, sending water gushing across the floor. "This is the 3rd time this week someone blocks my walkway," she said, her tone calm but laced with venom. "Clean it. Now." Adanna bent down without protest, her scarf slipping slightly as water soaked her wrapper and feet. She did not argue. She did not look up. She simply cleaned. From the corner, another maid whispered to Mama Ronka, "This one won't last. She's too quiet, too gentle." But Mama Ronka's eyes narrowed. Something about this woman's silence was different. The next day, Adanna woke before dawn. By 5, she was sweeping the front porch. By 6, She was in the kitchen washing dishes. "You wake early?" Mama Ronka muttered, surprised. Adanna smiled faintly. "I just want to do my work well." But peace never lasted long in that house. At the strike of heels, the kitchen fell silent. Ifeoma entered, her silk robe flowing behind her like a banner of authority. Her voice cut through the air. "Where's my lemon water?" Mama Ronka fumbled. "I was just about to—" "I wasn't asking you," Ifeoma snapped, her cold eyes landing on Adanna. Adanna bowed her head. "I'll get it, Ma." Her hands moved carefully, slicing 2 perfect lemon rounds, placing them in lukewarm water. She carried the glass upstairs, knocking once. "Come in," came the command. The room glittered with wealth, gold accents, perfume bottles lying neatly, a small dog blinking from the bed. Adanna placed the tray gently by the bedside. Ifeoma sipped, paused, and smirked. "You're lucky. You got it right." Adanna turned to leave when the mistress's voice came again. "There's a stain on my bathroom sink. I hate stains." Inside, Adanna scrubbed quietly. But as her elbow brushed against a perfume bottle, it wobbled dangerously. She caught it just in time, only to turn and find Ifeoma at the doorway, arms crossed. Without a word, the slap came, sharp, unforgiving, burning across her cheek. "You're clumsy," Ifeoma said coldly. "I don't like clumsy people." Adanna's eyes stung, but no tears fell. She bowed her head. "I'm sorry, Ma." She placed the perfume bottle back exactly where it had been. At the doorway, unseen by Ifeoma, Chief Tunde Williams had paused. His crisp agbada rustled softly as he watched the scene. His eyes met Adanna's, steady, quiet, with a flicker of pity. But Adanna didn't want pity. She wanted her salary. For hospital bills, for oxygen, for Chiamaka. The slap echoed in her memory, but her spirit did not waver. She whispered to herself that night, lying on her narrow bunk. "Not yet. Not until my daughter lives." Days turned into weeks inside the Williams Mansion. Oh, the house was spotless, but the air was sharp, laced with tension that clung to every corner. Most maids cracked under the pressure. Some wept, some fled. But Adanna Okafor remained. Her silence unnerved the mistress more than rebellion ever could. Mrs. Ifeoma Williams was not used to silence. She was used to fear, to tears, to voices stumbling over apologies. But Adanna gave her none of that. She worked steadily, bowed when spoken to, and never raised her voice. It was like trying to bruise water. No matter how hard you struck, it only absorbed. So Ifeoma turned up the heat. One afternoon, Adanna returned to her small quarters to find her uniform missing. In its place hung a ridiculous see-through nightgown. The other maids looked away nervously, afraid of being dragged into the game. Adanna said nothing. She tied her old Inugu wrapper neatly, pulled on her faded t-shirt, and returned to work. When she stepped into the living room with her mop, Ifeoma froze. Her sharp eyes narrowed, then curved into a cruel smile. "Did you sleep in the gutter?" she said loudly. "Or are you dressing to match the mop?" Some junior staff chuckled nervously. Adanna bowed her head and continued cleaning, every sweep of her mop measured, every breath steady. But the quieter Adanna became, the more Ifeoma pushed. She spilled red wine across the white rug, arms folded. "Oops, clean it." Though I doubt village hands know how to remove stains. Adanna knelt without a word and scrubbed until the carpet gleamed. Another time, a crystal bowl shattered to the ground. Ifeoma's voice sliced the air. "You broke it, didn't you?" "I'll clean it, Ma," Adanna replied softly, sweeping the shards into a tray. The other staff shook their heads. How long can she keep this up? But something unexpected began to shift. The gardener, who had once worked in silence, began humming hymns as he trimmed the hedges. Musa, the cheerful gateman, started greeting Adanna with warmth. "Auntie Adanna," he would say with a grin. "How Chiamaka day? She dey try." Adanna's smile was tired but hopeful. "She's still breathing. God is faithful." Even Chief Tunde Williams noticed. One evening, sitting in the garden with his newspaper, he watched Adanna sweeping dust from the marble paths. Her wrapper was frayed, her sandals had holes, but her posture was steady, her spirit unbroken. "Adanna, right?" he asked, lowering the paper. "Yes, sir," she answered, straightening slightly. He studied her. "Are they treating you well here?" Adanna paused, then offered a faint smile. "They're treating me how life treats many people, sir. But I'll be fine." Chief Tunde nodded slowly, his eyes thoughtful. That night, over dinner, he asked his wife, "Why is that girl still here?" Most would have left after the first week. Ifeoma raised her brow. "Because she's useful, quiet, doesn't talk back." But deep down, she knew the truth. Adanna refused to shatter, and that unsettled her more than open defiance ever could. It was a gray Saturday morning in Abuja. Clouds pressed low over the city, and the air outside the Williams Mansion smelled like rain waiting to fall. Inside, silence hung heavy, no shouting, no clicking heels, no barked orders. For the first time since Adanna arrived, the house felt strange. Adanna had just finished sweeping the east wing when something in the hallway mirror caught her eye. She froze. At the end of the corridor, slumped on the polished floor, was Mrs. Ifeoma Williams. Not on her velvet chaise lounge, not at her vanity table, but on the bare floor. Her silk scarf hung loosely from her head, her robe wrinkled. Mascara streaked her cheeks, as if tears had been wiped away too quickly. One heel lay abandoned across the floor, the other still clung awkwardly to her foot. A wineglass from the night before sat untouched by her side. Adanna gripped her broom tighter. This was not the sharp, unbreakable woman who commanded fear. This was someone else, fragile, almost unrecognizable. She wanted to turn away. This was not her business. But something deep, something almost maternal, rooted her feet in place. Slowly, carefully, she stepped closer. "Ma." Her voice was soft, respectful. Ifeoma's head snapped up. Her face was no longer stone. It was vulnerable, streaked with pain. "What do you want?" she hissed, wiping her cheeks hastily. Adanna bowed her head, not in fear, but in respect. From her apron, she pulled out a small, clean towel. Quietly, she placed it beside Ifeoma on the floor. She did not speak. She did not linger. She simply turned to leave. "Wait." The word cracked. Not sharp like glass, but raw, trembling, like a soul searching for air. Adanna paused. "Why do you stay?" Ifeoma's voice trembled, though her eyes tried to hold their usual steel. Adanna turned back slowly. Her voice was steady, carrying the weight of truth. "Because I need to. For my daughter." "You could find another job," Ifeoma shot back, though her tone lacked conviction. Adanna's smile was faint but unshaken. "Maybe, but not one that pays as well, and hospitals don't accept excuses." For a moment, Ifeoma's mask cracked further. Her lips parted, her breath shallow. "You're not scared of me?" Adanna hesitated. Then she said what no one had ever dared to say in that house. "I used to be scared of life. But when you've held your child's hand in the emergency ward at 2 a.m., listening to a machine keep her alive, what else is left to fear?" The silence that followed was heavy, but not hostile. It was thick with something new, something Ifeoma had not allowed herself to feel in years. Understanding. Her eyes glistened. Not with anger, but with something far more dangerous to her pride. Honesty. They said I wasn't good enough, she whispered, almost to herself. My husband's family, his friends, even people at church, they called me a pretty face, said I'd never measure up to his first wife. Her voice broke. I thought, if I could control everything, if the house was spotless, if the staff feared me, maybe I'd finally be enough. Adanna did not speak. She did not pity her. She simply sat down on the floor, not too close, not too far, just present. For the first time, Ifeoma did not order someone to leave. She simply stared at her reflection in the mirror, two women side by side, worlds apart, yet bound by pain neither could hide. And for the first time, Mrs. Ifeoma Williams allowed herself to breathe. The next morning, the Williams Mansion felt different. No slammed doors, no raised voices, no sound of heels striking like gunshots on marble. Instead, the house carried a silence that was lighter. Adanna swept the front porch, humming an old hymn her mother used to sing in Enugu on Sunday afternoons. She didn't even notice Mrs. Ifeoma Williams standing in the corridor listening. Is that a gospel song? Ifeoma asked suddenly. Startled, Adanna looked up. Yes, Ma. My mother sang it when times were hard. Ifeoma nodded once and walked away. No insult, no cutting remark, just silence. In the kitchen, Mama Ronka raised an eyebrow. Did Madam just pass me without shouting about the pepper? The steward beside her whispered wide-eyed. She even said good morning. Later that week, as dawn stretched across Abuja, Ifeoma called out from the top of the stairs. Adanna. The maids froze. It was the first time anyone had heard her use the maid's name. Adanna straightened. Yes, Ma? Get dressed after breakfast. You'll take the day off. Adanna blinked. Ma? Go and see your daughter. You've earned it. Adanna's heart skipped. She had not seen Chiamaka in over 3 weeks. She had not dared to ask for leave, not with hospital bills mounting. And now, just like that, permission was granted. At breakfast, she found an envelope wrapped in tissue on her tray. Inside was N50-000 and a short handwritten note. For transport and whatever you might need. I.W. Her hands trembled. It wasn't the money. It was the softness, the gesture of trust. By noon, Adanna was on a bus heading to Lagos, the long road stretching past endless villages, markets, and palm trees. Each mile carried her closer to the one thing that gave her strength. At the Lagos University Teaching Hospital, she stepped into the children's ward. There, lying on the bed with fragile breaths, was Chiamaka. Thin, weak. But when she saw her mother, her eyes lit up, like Christmas. Mommy! Adanna dropped to her knees, clutching her daughter close, tears streaming freely. I'm here, my love. I'm here. They laughed. They shared a small bowl of pap. They whispered stories until Chiamaka's eyes grew heavy. Adanna brushed her daughter's hair gently and tied it with a tiny ribbon she had bought on the way. Mommy, Chiamaka murmured, her voice weak but hopeful. You said we'll go home when you get money. Is it soon? Adanna's smile wavered, but her voice was steady. Very soon, my love. God is helping us. Just hold on. Back in Abuja, Ifeoma sat at her vanity. Her hand lingered on a silver-framed photo of Chief Tunde with his late first wife, the woman society adored, the ghost that still shadowed her marriage. For the first time in years, a tear slipped from her eyes, soft, silent, real. And she did not wipe it away. When Adanna returned from Lagos, the Williams Mansion was not the same house she had left. Musa, the gateman, beamed at her from the gate. Auntie Adanna, welcome back. We missed your face, so... She smiled, bowed slightly, and stepped inside. The air felt washed clean. The walls no longer seemed to echo with fear. Even the staff moved differently, lighter, freer. Mama Ronke's stew was richer, seasoned with joy. The steward cracked jokes during breakfast cleanup. Even Musa whistled praise songs as he polished the black iron gates. But the most surprising change came from upstairs. "Adanna," Mrs. Ifeoma Williams called one morning, her voice carrying none of its usual ice. She stood in her dressing gown, holding a white envelope. "This is for Chiamaka's medication. Don't argue, just take it." Adanna opened it. 100,000 in crisp notes. Her lips parted in shock. "Ma?" "Don't thank me," Ifeoma cut in sharply, though her eyes wavered. "That thing you said, that life breaks you until nothing scares you anymore. I think I understand now." Adanna looked at her, not as a maid to a madam, but as one woman to another. Her voice was gentle. "Pain makes us do things, Ma, but it doesn't have to make us cruel." The sentence hung between them like incense, soft, lingering, sacred. From that day, the mansion shifted. Ifeoma no longer barked orders for every glass of water. She no longer prowled the hallways searching for mistakes. Instead, she watched Adanna closely, studying her strength, her calm, her quiet endurance. At dawn, Ifeoma would pause by the corridor, listening to Adanna hum her soft hymns as she swept. At dinner, she noticed how the staff sat taller, how even Chief Tunde's eyes carried less strain when Adanna was in the room. One Thursday afternoon, as Adanna folded towels in the guest wing, Ifeoma appeared at the doorway, not commanding, not cold, just present. "Adanna," she said softly, "I'd like you to accompany me somewhere tomorrow." "Yes, Ma? Where to?" "To a women's luncheon at Eco Hotel in Lagos." Adanna's eyebrows lifted. "Ma, I don't think—" "You don't have to say anything," Ifeoma interrupted gently. "Just be there. I want you to meet some people." When Adanna returned to her quarters that evening, she found it waiting on her bed. A peach-colored gown, soft and flowing, folded neatly beside a scarf and simple pearl earrings. Not flashy, not gaudy, but elegant, dignified. She touched the fabric, her chest tightening. Then, for the first time in months, she sat on the edge of her bed and wept, not from pain, but from being seen. The following morning, the Williams driver opened the SUV door as though ushering royalty. Adanna hesitated, her hands clutching the soft peach gown Mrs. Ifeoma Williams had given her. She had never worn such elegance in her life. But when she stepped inside the car, sitting quietly beside Ifeoma, something within her shifted. The ride from Abuja to Lagos was long, but the silence inside the car was not sharp. It was calm. For the first time, Adanna felt the mistress's presence without the sting of cruelty. At Echo Hotel Suites, the grand hall glittered with chandeliers. Women in flowing gowns and polished heels filled the terrace, their laughter mingling with the soft clink of champagne glasses. Heads turned when Mrs. Ifeoma Williams entered, Adanna walking beside her. Whispers floated through the air. Who is she? Why did Ifeoma bring a maid here? But Ifeoma did not flinch. She raised her chin and spoke with quiet authority. This is Adanna Okafor, she told the first circle of women. She is stronger than most people I know, and she has a daughter who is a fighter. Adanna's eyes widened. She bowed her head, her cheeks warm. Never in her life had anyone of power introduced her with such dignity. A tall woman in a navy suit leaned forward with a warm smile. I'm Dr. Kemi Balogun, founder of the Nigerian Children's Heart Foundation. Maybe we can help your daughter. Adanna's breath caught. Help Chiamaka? Yes, Dr. Kemi said gently. I'd like to see her medical details. Before Adanna could speak, Ifeoma placed a firm hand on her back. I've already sent them everything, she said. Adanna blinked, stunned. Her voice trembled. Ma, you... No need to thank me. Ifeoma cut her off, her tone softer than ever before. Let's just wait it and see what comes of it. The luncheon continued, but Adanna's heart wasn't in the food or the speeches. Her spirit was racing, caught between disbelief and gratitude. She had walked into the Williams Mansion with nothing but a nylon bag. Now, standing in Echo Hotel among Abuja and Lagos elites, she felt seen, not as a maid, but as a mother, as a woman. That night, back in her modest quarters at the mansion, she folded the peach gown neatly, laid it on her bed, and wept into her scarf. Not tears of pain this time, but tears of possibility. For the first time since Chiamaka fell sick, hope no longer felt like a dream. It felt near. 3 days after the luncheon at Echo Hotel, Adanna was in the kitchen peeling yam when her small cell phone buzzed. The number was unknown. She wiped her hands quickly and answered. Hello? Good morning, came a warm, professional voice. Is this Mrs. Adanna Okafor, mother of Chiamaka Okafor? Her heart skipped. Yes, this is she. This is Dr. Kemi Balogun from the Nigerian Children's Heart Foundation. We've reviewed Chiamaka's case, her scans, and her test results. A pause. We would like to fully sponsor her heart surgery, covering all costs, medication, and post-operative care. For a moment, the world stilled. The yam slipped from Adanna's hand. I'm sorry, Ma. What did you say? She stammered. We'll cover everything. Your daughter will receive the best care. You don't need to worry. Adanna dropped to her knees, tears spilling uncontrollably. Thank you, Jesus, she cried, her hands lifted. Mama Ronka rushed in, alarmed. What is it? What happened? Adanna's voice broke with joy. They're paying for it. Everything. Chiamaka's surgery. She's going to live. The kitchen erupted. Mama Ronka shouted praises. The steward clapped his hands. Musa ran in from the gate, his grin wider than ever. Auntie Adanna, you mean it? Ah, God is too much. That evening, Adanna carried a cup of lemon tea to Ifeoma's room. Her hands trembled as she set it down. Ma, they called. Ifeoma looked up from the window, her eyes calm. And? They're doing it. Everything. Chiamaka will have the surgery. A faint smile touched Ifeoma's lips. Adanna's tears spilled again. I don't know how to thank you, Ma. You didn't have to help me. Ifeoma stood slowly, her eyes softer than they had ever been. Helping you help me. Adanna frowned gently. I don't understand. I used to think strength was about control, Ifeoma said, her voice low. Perfect floors, silent staff, cold words. But I watched you. How you worked through pain, how you never complained, how you carried dignity without ever raising your voice. That is what strength really is. For the first time, the distance between mistress and maid disappeared. 2 women, 2 worlds, bound by suffering, but now joined by something deeper. Respect. Adanna had not just survived the Williams Mansion. She had transformed it, and in doing so, she had transformed Ifeoma too. The Monday sun rose gently over Abuja, carrying the smell of dew and the faint hum of the city waking. Inside the Williams Mansion, the rhythm of life had changed. No longer was it a place of fear. It breathed with peace. Adanna moved quietly, mopping the marble hallway with the same steady hand she had always used. But now, the way people looked at her was different. The housekeeper, once skeptical, now deferred to her before assigning duties. Musa, the gateman, greeted her each morning with, Auntie Adanna, good morning. May today smile on you. Mama Ronki cooked with laughter spilling from her lips, her stews richer than ever. Then the long-awaited day came. At Lagos University Teaching Hospital, doctors prepared little Chiamaka Okafor for her surgery. Adanna knelt by her daughter's bed, clutching her hand tightly. "Be strong, my love. God has opened a door for us." Chiamaka smiled weakly. "Mommy, I'll be strong, just like you." Hours passed like years. Adanna prayed, her tears soaking the hospital chapel's wooden bench. And then, news came. The surgery was a success. Chiamaka would live. Back at the mansion, the staff rejoiced when they heard. Musa danced at the gate. Mama Ronke cried tears of joy. Even Chief Tunde smiled, quietly telling his wife, "That girl brought light into this house." That evening, Adanna carried tea into Ifeoma's room. For the first time, she didn't bow. She simply placed the tray down with quiet dignity. Ifeoma looked up, her eyes no longer cold, but softened by humility. "You were right," she whispered. "Pain doesn't have to make us cruel." Adanna smiled gently. "Strength is not in how much fear we command, Ma. It's in how much love we carry, even when life tries to break us. Two women, two worlds, once divided by power and pride, now united by healing." The Williams Mansion, once called the house that broke women, was no longer a graveyard of broken spirits. It had become a sanctuary of peace, because one woman, armed with nothing but love for her child, refused to shatter. And as Chiamaka healed, so did the house. So did Ifeoma. So did everyone who had once lived under the shadow of fear. Adanna had not just survived, she had overcome.